Very good morning. We are back with the BV Raman webinar series. Today we have with us uh, Shri Pradeep Gowda with us. So we will start the session with the prayer. I request Srimati Shri Devi Das, our faculty member from Mysore chapter, to render the prayer. Shri Devi, madam.
Yes. वरसेते विनायकम् वरसेते विनायकम् भज देवे मानस वरसेते विनायकम् भज देवे मानस वरसेते विनायकम् भज रे मानस वरसेते विनायकम् भज रे मानस वरसेते विनायकम् वरदाभय हस्तम् वरदाभय हस्तम् पारिजात नादिनोतम् वरदाभय हस्तम् वारिजात नादिनोतम् वरगुरुगुहसोदरम् श्रीरगणादिपूजितम् मूषिकवाहन मोदकतरम् चतुरतरकरम् वरसेदे विनायकम् वरगुरुगुहसोदरम् वीरगणादिपूजितम् मूषिकवाहन मोदकतरु चतुरतरकरम् वरसेदे विनायकम् भज रे मानस वरसेदे विनायकम्
Thank you, madam. Thank you. It was really melodious, and it brings it brought a lot of cosmic energy. So thank you for your melodious prayer.
Thank you, sir.
Now we have with us Shri Pradeep Gowda, today's resource person. He is going to present the technical paper today. So it is very interesting and a good research. I will not take much time because I'm sure you are all waiting for his presentation. Pradeep Gowda, he is a senior faculty at Bangalore One chapter. He has on-hand experience with handling all the topics, all the branches of astrology. Be it astrology, Vastu, and Nadi, all three dimensions. Hastareka, all the papers he has a mastery in that. He is a prolific author as well. His research paper have been published in Modern Astrology. So many of he is a regular contributor for the Modern Astrology, and all his researches are authentic and original. So with that, brief introduction. Okay, I missed out very important point. He is also shouldered the responsibility of honorary National Treasurer of ICAS. So that is something which I must. He showed us the responsibility of a this a treasurer of ICAS. So with that short introduction, I hand it over to Pradeep ji for the presentation. So Pradeep ji, it's all yours now.
Thank you, sir. Very good morning, everyone. Sir, can I just confirm if the slide is seen?
Yes, sir. It is visible. It is visible.
Vishwanath, sir. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir. It is visible. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be presenting the research paper on atheist. What makes one an atheist? Since the time I have picked up this topic, a lot of questions have been asked as to why this topic. Am I an atheist? No, I'm not. But the concept of atheists always intrigued me as to what drives them seek evidence proofs for something that is something that a believer easily gets it, and he is always on the journey of asking a question. So in the from the point of finding out the actuals as to what drives them the way it drives them, the journey started. And my always the uh, main important point was to see whether the seers have actually given any sort of clues for us to decode through astrology. If my point was, if there was a believer in the age old system, there should have been a non believer as well, just to balance out in the nature. And how did the seer see it? So the journey was very overwhelming, very tough to crack it and to bring everything together. So, whatever the work that I have done, I'll try to present it in the most simplest format with a technique, how to approach this humongous topic in a step by step manner and come to a conclusion and understand how to use astrological pointers to not only identify that but also see the intensity of which the individual will go to begin with. We will do a small comparison before we jump into the astrological pointers as to who is a believer and a non-believer, what are the differentiators. An atheist is somebody who is a total non-believer of divine forces. Is sorts of so shows a character of heterodox, doesn't conform to any orthodox views or any set belief system. Is always on a questioning mode or is on a completely ignorant mode. The reason is high rationalization, self-conceitedness, and self-love. So when these things are uh, in an increased dose in an individual, all that he is seeing is the physical world. Nothing that is not seen in the physical world doesn't exist for him. Now prejudiced and impervious towards a believer. He is little prejudiced towards a believer because he thinks whosoever is a believer is little credulous and superstitious. And his personality should be an impervious personality. When we say impervious, means something that cannot penetrate that easily and make him convince on anything. So the corpus of Hindu authoritative texts that we look at, whatever that we have studied, teaches us that if there is a self-love, increase of self-pride, self-conceitedness, self-love, it results in what we call as ahankara. That is nothing but spiritual ignorance. Take out this word, put it in any Sanskrit dictionary, you're going to get the wisdom of seers was any, ahankara means nothing but spiritual ignorance. When you are unaware of there is an other force that lies, you always feel that you are doing everything. Even the Gita says the same thing in one of the shlokas, that 4 steps I can do, the fifth step is always the divine force. So what he believes is Adi Bhautika, believes in completely physical world only. What exists in front of his eyes is what lies. Nothing touches him or nothing appeals to him for his own, due to his own intellect and in rationalization. And what is rationalization is nothing but giving a you know proper theory for whatever that one believes in whichever form. Now, there's something called agnostic, somebody who is dissident towards orthodox views and is little confused whether to believe or not. Now, one given opportunity, something that happens in his life which is not according to his will, or there is some tragic circumstances that he may come across, he will turn into be from an agnostic to an atheist. He will start believing that there is nobody who's taking care of him, or there is no force above up. A classic example is the scientist Marie Curie, who was born and brought up in a church circumstances and lost her mother and turned out to be an atheist. That's the way the agnostics move. They're a little bit delusional and non-committal. They refuse to conform to the orthodox views or the religions or the whatever that has been set out. The same, they also show the similar characteristics of an atheist, like a rigid prejudice. It's just that he's a little bit wobbling. The agnostic is a guy is a little bit wobbling with his anger as to whether the god exists or not. He's always on a questioning mode. He seeks evidence, he wants a proof, but he disapproves every proof that has been given to him. Although a believer does not require any proof, but still, whatever proof that is on a day-to-day basis that happens around him, he still seeks an evidence for it and disapproves of it. And he also believes in a adi bhautika, physical world only. There is another category that comes in, what we call as deist. Is a little bit what he says, nature is god, there's nobody above it, and there's nothing called religion and religious authorities, and anybody whosoever is superior to him is not ready to agree or conform to them. He's a little skeptic in terms of following the uh, path that has been laid out by his ancestors. Now, there is a high reasoning for this. He's always questioning in the mode, and he's less rigid and prejudiced compared to the other two. He's willing to hear, but he's still very skeptic on moving forward. He believes in two. One is adhyatmika, partial human self. He is ready to go introspective, but he is not fully sure about it. He's not fully sure whether he discovers those things, so he's wobbling a bit there. And adi bhautika, physical world, that's what he looks at as. Now comes the most important one, the theist, the differentiator. It's an unconditional faith, and realization of the divine energy is always an inborn faculty. Each one individual realizes in his own way. It's not driven by any external factors. He does not need any proof. He is born with it, he realizes it, he hears those voices, he sees those signs, and he connects instantly to the higher forces. There is no proof, there is no evidence that is required for him. He believes and submits to a guru, whosoever is superior to him, a superior knowledge. He believes unconditionally to them. He believes shastras as guiding force. You know, the classic example is astrology, how it can actually uplift an individual from a path of ignorance to put him on the path of understanding and path of life. Now, he truly believes that the human language that is made out of humans is very, very limiting. So the words which are very incapable of measuring the immeasurable, the divine force as immeasurable. Whatever words that I use, the way I communicate, it cannot be justified. So measuring the immeasurable is a futile effort, and he just submits to that force, and he knows that the guiding force is always behind him. So he believes in three worlds, that is Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika, and Adi Bhautika. So everything exists in three forms, like a fire, like Agni Deva, like a human self, Jataragni, the fire in the stomach, and there's a physical fire. He sees all three fires. There's no question on that. Now the question is, how do we move forward with such complex theories? Now, if you look at it, there's a personality factors that come in. There is a karmic factors that come in. and there is an intellect factors that come in. Now, how do we merge all this? To merge everything and move forward, we need to cut everything into pieces and go step by step. The first form in understanding the horoscope is to understand the kendras. Why kendras? The kendras denote the present life. I mean, what is he born with in the present life? How is he born? What are the factors that he has been given for him? What are the factors driving him? In that, I have a little observation to make. Let's understand the kendras in a pristine form. When I say pristine form, I'm not putting any planetary configurations. All that I'm putting is a lagna, and I'm trying to understand a blank horoscope. What are the type of signs that are present in kendras from the lagna that I'm seeing? Supposedly, my Aries is a lagna. What do I have in kendras? I have, Aries is the first house, Cancer fourth, Libra seventh, and Capricorn 10th. Now, if you look at it in the table, all cardinal signs that are 1, 4, 7, 10, which have been given so much of importance in astrology, are very well balanced with benefics and malefics. There are two benefics and two malefics. There is a complete balance. What balance that is required is, one, you require that kind of a, malefics are required for that kind of a go-getting kind of a attitude, and benefics are required to be within the conformed norms, and to balance out the physical health, mental health, everything. If you look at dual signs, they are completely tilted towards benefics, Jupiter and Mercury, and unless Mercury gets seriously afflicted. But you come to fixed signs, there is an imbalance towards malefics. If you look at it, there are three malefics in Kendras from them and one benefic. And remember, the Taurus that comes in as a fixed sign is also a highly materialistic sign, very, very materialistic sign. So when there are signs that are present in this form, it's very, very important to understand what is the mold of the personality that it is taking in. To understand the mold, let's go one by one. What are the kendras show? The kendras show my present life existence, my objective existence of this present life. So it shows everyday life activities. How do I think? What do I do? What's my personality? How do I even appear? Everything comes out in the kendras one. So in simple one, my every conscious actions is derived by this. Cardinal signs are balanced, dual signs are imbalanced towards benefics, and fixed signs are imbalanced towards malefics. Now, what does malefics do? The malefics generally are selfish in their view. They want to thrust their opinion, they want to forcefully implement their agenda. In terms of health, they'll forcefully change the health of a person. The shape of the body itself sometimes gets changed when malefics hit. And in terms of personalities, multiple shadowy personalities are created. In the individual is something inside, but he's projecting something else outside. There's a guile, there's deviousness, there's unscrupulous. All those things comes with the malefics, especially when they are influencing the kendras from the lagna, unrelieved by any benefic for that matter. It makes it a very, very forceful personalities. Very forceful personalities they make it, especially when it is important. Now, next slide, we will understand why the fixed signs we are talking about it so uh, in detail. The other important factor that you need to understand with this is fixed signs have a unique combination of two planets controlling the houses of gains, like Panaparas. Jupiter and Mercury are the two planets that control 2, 5, 8, 11 for all the fixed signs. This is a unique for this lagna, for this set of lagnas. The other set of lagnas don't have this kind of a perfect balance. This is Jupiter and Mercury makes it. It makes them very, very ambitious. The powerful, the malefics, the powerful, the ambitiousness of a person, and any dhana yoga that is getting created for these lagnas can multiply, because the 2, 5, 8, 11 are ruled by one, a planet of multiplication, another, a planet of expansion. So it can multiply. You can check, there is a sloka in chapter 4, Sarvartha Chintamani, Shloka 69 or something. It says, if Mercury gets associated, if Mercury is the lord of 2nd and 11th, gets associated with 4, the person will live in a mansion. So they're trying to take the lordship of Mercury to 11, which is nothing but it comes for a Leo Lagna as well. And then they are putting it for fourth house and the influencing the fourth lord, and it gives a mansion of a house, so it just multiplies. So that ways the role of Mercury and Jupiter needs to be understand for this lagna. Although this is slightly out of topic, but I've just put in a pointer so that any students out here who is interested can make a note of it and can further understand how it functions. And for this Mercury being in fourth house, fourth lord giving a mansion, anybody can check Shah Rukh Khan's horoscope. The same thing, whatever shloka has been described in Sarvartha Chintamani, it is there in his horoscope. And he does live in a mansion, big mansion, and he has many mansions, is what I believe. Next, we'll move. This is the most important point that we have come. Now we have understood fixed signs. There are certain factors that can drive, like malefics. It's tilted towards malefics and hence can be very, very brutal in their approach. Now let's bring in all the factors of lagna. When I say all the factors of lagna, I mean ascendant, moon, and sun. And let's put all of them in a fixed sign. And let's place two malefics with them. Now, if you look at this combination, the first thing that it should strike for a student or somebody who is reading the horoscope is all the factors of lagna rising in fixed signs. And there are two malefics placed in kendras from all the factors of lagna. So technically, all kendras from all factors of lagnas are controlled by two powerful malefics. Now, this makes the individual very, very powerful, very, very forceful in nature. Why? And before we get that, a mold personality is a mold through which consciousness of the ascendant has to function. The greater, the stronger the personality, the stronger the impediment in understanding the true self. So this is the important clue. One needs to understand the true self, which is nothing but spiritual in nature, and stronger it becomes, the personality stronger it becomes, the ego of the individual rises quite above everyone else. He is little differentiated from others. He feels he's little special. He feels he needs to be treated little special. These are the individuals who can be put in a little friendship group also. They want to trust their opinion. They want to make sure their opinions matter a lot. I'm not talking about any moon sign here. I'm talking about fixed signs being influenced by kendras, the first fossil personalities. Here is the clue. The fixed signs are known as sthira, nothing but stationary. Now, what is stationary? Something that has not yet got the direction. It is dependent on other conditions, which means if the fixed signs are not kinetic in motion yet, and whosoever comes and influences those signs will start becoming kinetic later on. And the nature of the planet that is influencing matters a lot. That is why 1, 4, 7, 10, all movable signs have been given greater importance. When seers were talking about it, they're talking about it as a holistic picture, as a wholesome personality that comes out, not about one who makes a lot of money, not a lot of one who makes a lot of wealth. So fixed signs have this kind of a thing. So it is about who is influencing it, either benefic influencing it or malefics influencing it. So fixed signs, in some total of it, derives nature of the individual rather than activity. This is very, very important. And actuality of the action depend on other planetary energies. Now here, if you can see Saturn and Mars influencing the kendras from most, now you see from all factors of lagna, malefics have influenced. Now before you go into any other combination, you already have a clue in your hand that this can be a very, very tough personality to deal with. What it creates, rising in the fixed signs, very high obstinate nature. Obstinate nature is something that he resist changes. While he may bring in a lot of stability, durability, and predictability, but he'll also bring in very high obstinate nature. Change, decision doesn't come very easily for such individuals. And only malefics influencing factors of Lagna and their Kendra houses, creation of a forceful and a rigid personality comes in, right or wrong. And if it is benefic, it is very well within the limits. If it is only malefic, it definitely wants to thrust their own doctrine or philosophy onto the others, whatever they believe, whether they believe right, whether they believe wrong, but they'll push their agenda in the others' lives. Now, when we are talking about malefics, we can't rule out the other two malefic signs, Aries and Capricorn also. So these are ruled by malefic ruled signs. So we have to take into account. We can understand that these can play a slightly little secondary role to this because of the movable nature. But yet, when these two signs are also involved and influenced by malefics, it can be very, very forceful in nature. So finally, the one predictive rule, step one predictive rule that we are getting is, if Lagna, Moon, and or Sun jointly or severally rise in the fixed signs or in the signs Aries or Capricorn, having only the influence of malefic planets in the Kendras from them, birth of an impervious personality takes place. This is the first clue. When an impervious personality has taken care, he is resisting any change, he is resisting any sort of advice from anybody for that matter. This is where it has to begin, because my present life. Okay. Now there is I think most of you must have read this, and most of you have come across this statement in many spiritual books, which the gurus tell you or tell us is, objective existence lies in the bosom of subjective consciousness. Now, what are they telling? How do I make sense as a layman? What do I make sense of it? My objective existence, which is nothing but my present life, lies in the bosom of my subjective consciousness. And what is subjective consciousness according to the horoscope that we look at? The trikonas, the layers of mind that we look at. Okay, so we all know that my mind works in my mind has three layers. One is self, one is a subconscious self, and then is a higher self. The higher self is my ninth house, where it acts as an invisible guide to my life. It is a non-physical side of my existence. This ninth house has compelled the individual to take birth in this present life. Certain karmas, that good or bad, that has been created, this is the house that has compelled me to take birth. And these spiritual trikonas that we look at have a very magnanimous role to play. One, it uplifts the individual. It always directs the individual in the right direction and makes him create enough good karmas when they are well posited, not only for this life, for the future lives as well. They are very, visionary houses in that sense. And when they are backing and when they are running very well for an individual, the individual's best self is coming out. Okay, that's the question. The objective existence lies in the bosom of subjective consciousness. So disposition of trikonas become very important, and in the context of the subject that we are speaking, ninth house becomes very, very important. Now, what does ninth house say? It says dharmasthana, a guru, father, religion, higher mind, exertion of wisdom. Everything an individual can exhibit a higher behavior comes from this house. And the sum total of all this tells us it's a compulsion of past karma for which an individual has taken birth. Okay, this is where our spiritual father lies. There is always a debate from South India and North India as to should we take ninth house for father or 10th house for father. While that debate rages on, we can still consistently keep on taking that not just the physical father of ours, but the spiritual father definitely lies in my ninth house. So somebody who is watching us, somebody who is guiding us, somebody who is behind us. And hence you see, whenever a Dharma Karmadipati Yoga is created, the individual's horoscope is uplifted, his life is uplifted. It's almost like His entire past life's good karma is behind his back in the present life. He is guarded. His boat of the life will never sink. That is one great yoga which is said as highest form of Raj Yoga. And when they said highest form of Raj Yoga, it's the highest form of respect that the individual will get, and also will walk in the right path. Now let's look at shlokas. What are the classical shlokas that are coming at? Now Brihat Parashara Hora, chapter 26, sloka 93 says, when eighth lord is in the ninth house, the individual becomes a dharma drohi and a nastika, that is, an unrighteous and a non-believer of the divine forces. Here, very, very important clue that has been given is affliction to ninth house by the eighth lord. The words that are used, is exact words that I put, is dharmadrohi and nastika. This is as per the scriptures, not mine. The second shloka says, when the 12th lord is placed in the ninth house, the individual becomes a guru dveshi, one who hates his own preceptor. Guru can be taken here as somebody who is very, very superior to us. Even the one who doesn't have a physical guru will always rely on his family deity. The family deity is his guru, so we can still take it as the divine force. What does Paladipika says? Chapter 6, Sloka 66. If the lord of the ninth house is in the Dusthana, the person will have no regard from good people and elders and will be irreligious. I think the words that are used are little more harsher in Sanskrit. We have just put it in a little softer tone here. So any ninth lord going into Dusthanas and ninth house getting afflicted, we always have a very big problem for an individual to connect to his higher mind. Now use these significations on the left side of mind that is given and connect these slokas, that any affliction to the ninth house and ninth lord, some of these significations will have to get battered. Unafflicted ninth house lord, it gives a fantastic integration between the self and the higher mind. Means the individual has good connection with his higher mind, which is nothing but his inner voice, the non-physical side of the existence, his invisible guide, always following him and always pushing him in the right direction. He'll get a good guru, he will get a good doctor, he will get a good astrologer, he will get a good advisor, he'll get a good friend, whatever so mean, a luck factor coming from in multiple ways for him. Now afflicted ninth house lord makes it a very, very poorly integrated personality with the self and the higher mind. So he's struggling, he just gets disconnected completely from the his higher mind. The purity of mind is gotten disturbed, he's gotten disconnected from his spiritual roots. Now, the sum total of, if you open Brihat Parashara Horashastra and read the ninth house and combine with all the Dusthanas that have been given, one thing you can come up to conclusion that any affliction to ninth house and ninth lord, the individual has a problem with anyone who is superior to him. He can be his friend, he can be anyone for that matter. He just views the world in that form. And higher mind disintegrated means the ninth house getting disintegrated. He, he pushes out, he gets pushed out from his spiritual roots, and he gets sucked onto illusory material world. He feels whatever he's seeing right now is his own thing, and that's what it exists. And that is what the disposition. Now what we have got is, we have got an individual who is a very forceful personality, the present life conditions, but his present life conditions lies very intricately with his subjective consciousness. We came to the subjective consciousness and we started seeing affliction in the ninth house can be a very, very dangerous thing. Although all trikonas are same, affliction to all trikonas can be considered dangerous, but ninth house is something, in the context of the topic we are speaking, becomes a very, very important one. Now comes the intellect of an individual. We saw the mold that it is taking, we saw the disconnect that he is having from his higher self, Now comes, how does he use his intellect in the context of being very forceful and getting disconnected from his higher self? How does an individual use his intellect? Mercury rules intellect, and most importantly, Mercury has no distinctive personality of its own. It is very glassy in nature. It can take the shape and form that which it is associated with. It can be a malefic if it's with malefics, it can be a benefic it's with benefics. So it has no distinctive personality. That is why we are bringing in Mercury at this stage. When I saw a prediction flowchart, I will be a little clearer on that if there is any confusion. It acts as a channel for articulation and expression. It is through which the individual expresses and articulates. Sometimes some people will be so brilliant, like whosoever the rationalization I said, that their intellect can be intimidating. The way they communicate, they can even make the other person believe because of the words they speak. So that's the power of Mercury that we are speaking about. It's a planet of justification for every line of action or thought. So all these three things are very important in looking at. Apart from all the significations that we look at from Mercury, these three significations or four is very important in the context of the subject. Okay, one, it acts as a channel. Second, it has no distinctive personality. Third, it's a planet of justification for every line of action of thought. Even if the individual is not on the right path, they can justify it. Whosoever can use this Mercury very well. And who is using Mercury here? A forceful personality cut off from his higher self is using the Mercury here. Mercury imbibes the feature it is posited and the planets it is associated with. Okay. Now, what does afflicted Mercury tells us in astrology? It accentuates egoism, self-conceitedness, as well as self-love, resulting in avidya, that is nothing but spiritual ignorance. These are the three pillars of exclusive material world. That's what we have been taught in many books. Okay. Now, what does spiritual ignorance leads to? Exaggeration of I-ness. I am everything. I know. I have done it. There's nothing that else exists. Self-pride and delusion. Now, what does Shastra say now? Let's back it up with the Shastras. Brihad Jataka, chapter 18, Shloka 8. If Mercury is in Aries or Scorpio, the native would be an atheist. This is the first clue that is giving. We did not jump into Mercury being in Aries or Scorpio immediately because it does not make sense. There are a lot of people who are born in that, during the around March, April, November, December kind of time. But when to bring in the Mercury is the most important thing. After the personality is born, after the understanding of this Trikona is taking a beating, now we are bringing in the Mercury. What does Garga Hora says? If Jupiter and Mercury is in the sixth bhava, the native would be devoid of Shastras and would be an atheist. Let's look at another one. Sutra 1360. If Jupiter and Mercury is in the 12th bhava, the native would principally be an atheist. So they're trying to say if Mercury is associated with Jupiter and in any which way goes into Dusthanas, gets associated with Dusthanas, the individual fails to conform with established belief system and he would be a atheist. Now, sum total of afflicted Mercury in Aries or Scorpio signs or in their Navamshas also. The Navamsha, there is a separate slide to it, I'll explain. And we all know that the inner current of any planet is in the Navamsha only. So we have to bring those Navamshas also into picture. The sum total from all the classics is when Mercury is posited in Aries or Scorpio and or their Navamshas afflicted, not inclined to accept advice from others, argumentative, strong-headed, confused and obscured, hypercritical and cynical, and prejudiced. This is what is required for the context of the subject and hence taken. There are some positives also, which does not appeal to us right now. Whatever is required, we have to pulled it out, culled it out from the classics and put it over here. Okay. Now 3 steps over. What is the first step? Personality. Second step is subconscious. Third step is intellect. Now we have something called lower mind. We have to move to that. Houses of attraction and lower mind. This is very important. There is a higher mind. That is why they're specifically taking higher mind. There is a lower mind. And there is something called house of attraction as well. Now, another angle which the classic is talking about. Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, chapter 26, sloka 15. When the second lord is posited in the third house and get related to a malefic, the native would be a Deva Nindakaha, means critical of divine power. This is another very, very important clue that comes in. This second and third house getting associated with the malefic in different signs as a very different tangent the individual will take. We'll keep that aside. Right now, the second lord posited in third house or getting associated with it with the malefic, the native would be Devan Indaka, critical of divine power. Now let's see what is that, what does that mean? Second house shows sanskaras that one is born with. That is what we call as innate mental tendencies, attraction, and most importantly, faith in one's own traditions. This is where the repository of it is posited, and any association of such a house with the third house and with the malefic, we have a very big problem now. Because why? Third house is something that represents the same phenomena of what the ninth house represented as, which is higher phenomena. Which means if ninth house represented higher mind, being seventh house to ninth, the third house reflects the similar phenomena of the lower way. So it represents the lower mind. It's house of wicked intentions and illusory joys. When positives of third house needs to be taken, the courage, the parakrama, the skill, everything comes into picture. The same thing we can use it in sports, in war, and everything. When it comes to other significations also of third house, it is not considered a very positive house in terms of that. That is why it depends on what context that we are using in what. In astrology is all about what are we using it for, what topic. That's very, very important. Now let us put a formula to it now to understand it better. The formula is, looking at the sloka, second lord plus third lord plus malefic, some sensitive signs and conscious actions. Okay, what does it give me? It gives me my sanskaras influenced by lower mind, afflicted by malefic planets, in some sensitive signs, and also comes into a kendra, which means that kendra is a very important house for the present life. My conscious actions, right? What is the day-to-day activity that I am doing? It imports. So when all of these I put together, I get a predictive rule. If the afflicted second lord is placed in the third house, or vice versa, we can take, involving the signs Aries or Scorpio, sensitive signs, or if the afflicted second lord and third lord mutually aspecting each other from the Kendra houses, from the Lagna, the native would develop atheistic tendencies, which means the moment the third house goes into a Kendra, influenced by the second, he brings in his lower mind onto his day-to-day life. It can be a skill, it can be a sporting talent, but when it is afflicted, when the ninth house is blocked, when his higher mind is blocked, he can bring in all sorts of criticality of the divine power onto his day-to-day life. So he starts propagating outside. This is where we are really not worried about a coffee table discussion as to whether I believe in God or not. That is not why the research is done. The research is done to see who are these individuals, what are their driving forces in them, who comes out and propagate their own philosophical doctrine in terms of rejecting the established norms and beliefs, and they also start being very critical of the people, by terming them superstitious in terms of like whosoever is a believer. So those are the people that we are actually looking at in this research. And the same thing, the objective existence lies in the bosom of the subjective consciousness. Now my higher mind is blocked, my lower mind has taken precedence, my intellect is working as per what the you know malefics are dictating. Now you have an individual who truly believes is everything. His effort, his intelligence, his hard work is everything. There's nothing else. He's ignored everything else. He's blocked himself off all those things. We have 4 steps now. Another dimension to look at: as these spiritual triangles 159 uplift the individual, there is a blockage that comes from 3711, which are nothing but materialistic illusory joys of an individual, which is more in today's world being more powerful, dragging everyone down from the spiritual triangle. So what ninth house functions for one, third house functions for my seventh. It is placed in ninth to seventh, so it's my lowest mind. That's the reason I put this slide, so that people who have not got that grasp of it can have a look at it. So a material triangle and a spiritual triangle, what we want is a balance in today's world. But if you here we are looking at an imbalance towards 3711, not 159. Now role of nakshatras. Now when we talk about nakshatras, we need to be very careful, because that itself will take some 6-month course to understand the evolution of nakshatras and which nakshatras are prone for it. So it's completely out of scope. So in terms of bringing out navamshas into picture, we made it little more easier here for people to look at. Like Guru Chandra Ketu, first pada of Guru Chandra Ketu nakshatras, and fourth pada of Shani Shukra Kuja nakshatras, which will nothing but move into either Aries navamsha or a Scorpio navamsha. If any of the planets like second lord, third lord, lagna lord, or Mercury going into these navamshas, it becomes very, very vulnerable. Means if Mercury is in Aries navamsha, Aries Rashi and Scorpio navamsha, with all the other subjective conditions coming into picture, then it can be a brutal force of being an atheist. An additional clue: if the 8th lord is in the first house or the 7th house, the native would be an atheist. This is also an additional clue given in Sanketanidhi, chapter 6, sloka 74. So we have to piece up everything together now and start moving in to see illustrations. Before that, I would want to show 2 slides that is very, very important. This is the technique that is used in this research to get to the point. What is the first one? We understood Kendras, means we thoroughly understood the present life conditions. We are looking out for an individual who is resisting, who is not only resisting, but who is also forcefully putting across his views onto the world. We started understanding his Kendras. What is his personality mold? Then we started understanding his Trikonas. What is his subconscious mind? Means why is his present is indicated by his Trikona, his subconscious mind. So disposition of the Trikona becomes very, very important, the spiritual triangle. Then we brought in certain yogas, like a Nirbhagya yoga and things like that. Now we are looking at certain other yogas, Dushkirti yoga and other. We are going to bring yogas. Then we brought in specific planetary positions like Mercury being posited here and there, in Aries Navamsha, Scorpio Navamsha, Aries Rashi, Scorpio Rashi. Now we are bringing in Mercury, and then we brought in what we call as a dynamic one, that is Bhavas. Bhavas are very, very dynamic to that particular horoscope. So we did not jump to second and third lord immediately. neither we jump to Mercury immediately. We went in one line and we have come up until the bhavas. Now, after coming to this stage, we need to derive certain predictive rules to proceed. So there are 5 predictive rules which we need to understand to move forward. The first one, check if the Lagna, Moon, and the Sun rises in the fixed signs jointly or severally. Now, more of the factors rising, more the impact. The less the factors rising, lesser will be the impact. Check if the Kendra houses from the Lagna, Moon, and Sun are influenced only by the malefic planets, either through placement or aspect. If only malefic planets are influenced and all 3 are there in fixed signs, we have a very strong personality that has taken birth. And only malefics influencing, we have seen what is the result of it. Condition 3, check if the malefic planets are placed in the Trikona houses from the ascendant without any benefic planet influence, especially on the 9th house. Its Lord going into Dustanas, 9th house getting afflicted without any relief is a major setback in this thing, because we saw how his subconscious mind, the individual gets separated from his higher mind. Then we bring condition 4. Now check if Mercury is placed in the sign Aries or Scorpio as well as the Navamshas, or it can happen both. The same condition, check if the afflicted second lord and third lord from the Lagna and or the Moon are conjunct or mutually aspecting each other, involving the signs ruled by the malefic planets, with the signs Aries and Scorpio taking higher prominence. It can involve one of the malefic signs, or it can involve both malefic signs. It can involve Mercury signs. It all depends on the intensity one needs to check. Last condition, check if the 8th lord is either placed in the 1st, 7th, or 9th house. Once all the above conditions are met, which reaffirms the atheistic tendencies. Now, if any of these are completely not satisfied, the intensity may not be that great. But we have to move from condition 1 only. We can't move to the condition 5 and start declaring. We will go wrong very miserably. So first we have to understand, then move. Anywhere the afflictions are toned down by the benefics, the intensity reduces. So we can't have always such personalities taking birth. But if we have those charts, fine. But we have to take everything else into consideration also. So the lesser the conditions met in lesser degrees, lesser the intensity of the individual's atheistic tendencies also. Now we'll move to illustrations. So we remember these 5 conditions. These are the only 5 conditions that we will look at there. Morgan Freeman. Okay, I could not include Navamsha chart in a North Indian fashion. Kindly excuse me because of the lack of space. Who is Morgan Freeman? Is an actor, director, and narrator from Hollywood. Now, just let's look at condition 1. A fixed sign, fixed lagna, moon in fixed lagna, sun in fixed sign. All 3 fixed sign. Now, first it tells me his kendras are fixed. Now, his chart is completely dependent on what influences the kendras from each of these lagnas. Second point, look at Mars is posited in the 10th house from Moon and Sun in a Kendra from Lagna also, and Saturn is also impacting the 4th house. So powerful malefics influence Kendras from Lagna, Moon, and Sun. Both the conditions are met. The third condition, that is my Trikona, I look at 9th lord goes into 3rd house, which is not a welcome sign. It goes into 3rd house, into Aries Rashi, the Rashi that we are talking about. which is very, very vulnerable. The fourth, is there a Mercury that is posited in Aries Rashi? Yes. Is the Mercury is also posited in Scorpio Navamsha. So it's a double whammy. Now comes the fifth one. Is there an eighth lord, ninth lord of getting afflicted? Yes, eighth and ninth lord, Mercury and Venus are posited in the third house. So all the conditions that we spoke about meets it here. Is known for his atheist agnostic views. His statement is humans invented God, and if I believe in God, and I do, it's because I think I'm God. So you see the personality that is blocked by his higher mind, who thinks. He's also taken is the third lord being in 10th house is a very important clue. It's gone into the everyday conscious actions. So he not only follows it, propagates it as well. Let's move to the other one. Paul Kurtz, again a fixed sign, fixed moon sign. Sun is not in fixed sign. Mars is posited in Scorpio, in a Kendra from the Lagna and from Moon. So most of the Kendras do get afflicted here. Not as bad as Morgan Freeman, but yes, it does get afflicted. Mercury is also posited there. The ninth lord goes into a Dustana, although exalted. Again, we saw the Nirbhagya Yoga. The eighth lord, Jupiter, goes into ninth house. Sixth lord, Venus, goes into ninth house, which is also Lagna lord, which is good. And it's in the Rahu Ketu axis. So there is some peculiarity about ninth house that we are seeing. Jupiter and is very close to Ketu also as well there. And from Moon also there is a malefic posited, Saturn posited in the ninth. So all conditions meet. Is known as father of secular humanism. Is the professor of philosophy, founder of Prometheus Press, promoter of several skeptical, rationalist, and atheist organizations. And he believes he's a true unbeliever, and denoted his life on fighting prejudice against who rejects belief in divinity and promoted non-believer stance in life. All throughout he believed, because of his fixed nature, he refused to change, and even the Trikonas did not help him. Now what is the resultant of this is coming out in the third part, because I myself was drained out by bringing out in two parts this one. There are other houses that we have to bring in, other shlokas we have to bring in to see the resultant of such a nature as to where it will lead, and why Aries and Scorpio, they all coming out in the probably the next series that we'll bring in. But right now we'll stick to this. Now, among out of the two, the most important, most no, famous personality, Sigmund Freud, is a famous neurologist and known as father of psychoanalysis. Here, only Moon is in fixed sign, Sun is in sign Aries, Lagna rises in ascendant. But being influenced by the malefics from Lagna and from Sun, it turns out to be a little forceful. And you can see the second lord, third lord from Moon being together, the ninth house afflicted from Lagna. All the other conditions meet here. The second lord and third lord, Mars and Jupiter, mutually aspecting each other, being in Dustanas. So he's known for his statements like consider divine as fantasy and religion as universal obsessional neurosis with its repetitive rituals. Although Saturn is a yoga karaka for this Lagna, it's not functioned that very well for him for whatever reason. It's it's gone into ninth house. It sat there. It's created, you know, his life story tells us that his disciples, most ardent disciples, left him at the end because they were not in concurrence with his theory and his views, and he had a major failure by the end of the life. But then he was quite famous with whatever he did. So all the principles can be applied here and can be seen. Yeah. Another one statement: science will go beyond religion and reason will replace faith in the divine. That was his belief. Now, this is a very interesting horoscope. Jodie Foster, please look at the differentiator here. Ascendant, Sun, Moon, all are there. All of them are there in fixed signs. The ninth house is also afflicted, but Jupiter goes into a Kendra. Jupiter goes into a Kendra, the the personality should get diminished, or it should not become so forceful as compared to the other three that we saw. Because of Jupiter being in a Kendra here, it should be accommodative enough for others also. Although we have Mercury being placed, which the Shastras are telling that, atheist and all other views that are coming into picture. The second lord is in the fourth house, which is ruled by third lord. So every other principle gets met here. But you look at her horoscope, who is she? She's an Oscar-winning Hollywood actress, believes only in beauty and the awe-inspiring mystery of the science, is a questionable existence of divine due to lack of direct evidence, and most importantly, she loves religions and rituals. She does not propagate to come out and tell others, do that, do this is not right, this is not right, because the personality has become little more acceptable of the surroundings of the individual. It's not brutal, it's not forceful enough, and hence she is just suffering from the disconnect that she is having from her spiritual world, which is indicated through the ninth house. Although it's gone to 10th, the affliction to the ninth house has not helped her in any which way. So you can apply all the principles onto this horoscope and see the differentiator between Jodie Foster and the Morgan Freeman. Now, uh, my favorite one, Woody Allen. Now you see, Lagna rises in a fixed sign, Moon rises in a fixed sign, Sun rises in a fixed sign, and Saturn is in a Kendra. Here, it's an afflicted Mercury by Saturn and in a malefic sign. So we should consider Mercury as also a malefic. Why? Not benefic because Jupiter is there. Jupiter is deeply combusted, completely unhelpful in this condition. So we have a very, very forceful personality that has taken birth, fixed, um, very guile, very, shadowy, impervious nature that should come in. He's an Hollywood actor, director, comedian. He says, "To you, I'm an atheist. To God, I am the loyal opposition." His second lord goes into the sign Scorpio. His third lord goes into second house. And his ninth lord again goes into sixth house, with ninth house getting afflicted by both Saturn and Mars. And from Moon, the ninth lord goes into eighth house. So we have all such afflictions. You can put all the 5 conditions that we have met. Each one you can see it from the Lagna, from the Moon, everything. So all the principles work here. If God exists, I hope he has a good excuse, is what he says. He's someone who married a 35-year-old person younger to him, who was known for, was his stepdaughter, and he had a excuse for that. That's what the Mercury is doing it here. He's a brilliant orator, but he's using all the oratory skills to give out justification for the act that he does on the garb of the personality that he is born and the subconscious personality that has taken a beating here. Not only the ninth house is afflicted in his horoscope, even the fifth house is having a beating. So all other conditions meet here fully. This is, I don't have anything to explain here. This is the live horoscope that I'm showing. I just received a week back, and with applying all the principles, I could say the person follows an atheistic tendencies or is an atheist. I didn't take much time. The reason why I've displayed is, you can take down the details. The reason why I've displayed it is If we follow those principles, tomorrow we will be able to predict it well ahead that this person will take this route for whatever reason that we have discussed. That's why I've given this. There is another interesting twist. Can we take this to micro to macro? This is a very ambitious thought of mine. When we are doing research, we saw that as country called Albania declared itself as a atheist country. I don't have time for it. They declared themselves somewhere in 1940s. Their country was formed. Their independence is on November 28, 1912, and you can see the ninth house afflicted and the eighth lord afflicting the ninth lord, and Mercury being in Aries, Navamsha, and everything. By 1940s, they declared themselves as atheist country, and they started punishing very seriously for people who followed a belief system. They were brutal. Uh, to death penalties were given. By 1900s, with the fall of the regime that was following, today the country has reached to a 90% of the believers. So this is seen in Russia's chart also. At one point in time, they had banned astrology also. So it's a similar kind of a tendency that is seen. So wherever this Aries and Scorpio comes into picture with Mercury being there and ninth house having an affliction, we do have a problem. This is a very ambitious research which we have to take forward. Due to the lack of data, timing, I could not take it further, but I just wanted to give you a glimpse. And I want to end the session with one very important differentiator. Horoscope of a most complete human being ever born on this earth. That's what we Hindus believe. The greatest human being who has ever taken birth. He also has Mercury in Aries. He also has second and third lord together and influenced by a malefic. He also has, the third lord going into 10th house. Everything else is there. But if you look at the factors, is great disposition of the ninth house. Ninth lord exalted, fourth lord going into ninth house exalted, Lagna having benefics, and at the cost of himself, he took care of his kingdom, whatever. So we have seen all the highest possible behaviors. The reason why I put this chart is, if you simply move into Mercury, simply move into second and third lord, we may go wrong. So we have to go step by step. Here, if we go by the step, the second step, first and second step itself, we will not cross. So Mercury is behaving very differently as to the personality of what Lord Ram's horoscope is indicating. So you can see all principles working out very well here. Okay. And these are the additional references you can take, from Mr. Kamal Hassan to Mr. Girish Khanna to Mr. Bertrand Russell, everyone and their quotes. I have purposefully avoided certain politicians' horoscopes here, which were referred to, just to avoid any sort of attention from the topic. And wherever I was able to verify the time, events, and their statements and their interviews, they have all been given out here. And you can see various wise. Mr. For example, Mr. Nageshwar Rao's horoscope. He says I'm an atheist. He has Jupiter and Mercury in 12th house. So, but he did not come out and propagate. Rather, he kept it to himself, and whatever he followed, he followed. So you can see all the variations that have been given in the classics coming true in these horoscopes at various degrees. Wherever the degrees of conditions vary, the intensity also will vary, including Lenin's horoscope. And John Paul Sartre, the last one, was very, very vocal about being an atheist and things like that. So with this, I come to conclusion of this topic. We shall definitely take this forward as to in the future days, as to see why Aries and Scorpio, and what is the impact of the ninth house going wrong and out of sync. resisting the spiritual forces in life as per the shastras, not as per what we believe, as per what the shastras have said. That research is on, and hopefully, if I'm lucky enough, I will be able to bring it out and present it to you all. So please use it for your benefit. I conclude my session with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. It was a mind-blowing session. That is what the comment I am getting. So it is very well received from the audience. So I request KR Charji, I mean, is there any uh,
Questions?
questions? I think from the audience side. Okay, there are couple of questions.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll display the question.
Yeah.
Maybe some, no, Pradeep sir, if you can display, no, answer those questions. So this question is about the combinations, which you principles which you have highlighted in the beginning. What happens if the Jupiter as the eighth house lord in ninth house Capricorn along with the Saturn in Taurus Lagna? Will still be a
Dharmadrohi,
I
Moon
think,
2 is in ninth house. Here he is
yes.
asking the second question, second point, but we don't know the first point. We need to understand the first point. See,
Okay.
that's why if we jump into second point without
agree,
understanding the first, it does not make sense. So first is to
agree.
understand the Kendra's disposition, what all have been benefited, and remember,
Yes.
if Jupiter is not afflicted and is not combusted, it always has the power to keep the individual in the accepted norms. In the case that we show
Okay.
8th lord in 9th house, it was afflicted by a malefic very close to Ketu. Here in this case, if Jupiter is not afflicted, it may not. So just by placement of Jupiter in a trikona is a great antidote for an individual not to lose its path.
Okay.
And
So
that too with Saturn. That too with Saturn. No?
yes,
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 sir.
yes. Uh, Another question we have. I think this is. I'm sorry. I just read ninth lord, the Parivartana Yoga. So what can be the variation? That any result
If there is a
that we.
Parivartana Yoga with a good house, it's excellent. If there is a Parivartana Yoga, it still
No.
does not apply. So we have to go from the beginning. That is why I've been very careful in telling step by step. I've been very, very
Okay.
careful. You
Okay.
cannot jump to the second step without understanding the first step.
Agree with you. So it goes with the flow. So one has to one has to follow the same path. So thank you
Except
for the insight. There are no some feedbacks that from the YouTube viewers that no screen was little blur. I would like to recommend you all to change your display setting in the YouTube setting to 720 pixels, so that will solve your issue. Again, we will leave this link as it is. We will not disturb this link. You can visit the recording at any given point of time and revisit it. So it is available. So you can take benefit of that. Now I request Chari sir to sum up the session.
well, Pradeep ji,
Yeah.
I would simply say in one word, you have shown what is research and how it should be done astrologic in astrology. There are people who are very anxious to do research because they want Bhushan. Lekin, when the systematic approach is not followed, somewhere other they get stuck up and then they don't proceed. Now, your approach to the topic from the beginning to the end was systematic, and you have kept everybody in hook that you follow step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, and 5, without which you will not be able to come to the conclusion. Therefore, when we look at the horoscope also, the illustrations also were chosen illustrations of people who were well versed in philosophy and who did never bothered about the supreme soul. Whatever is said and done, supreme soul comes into mind of any person when there is a sankat, not otherwise. Otherwise, traditionally, they follow the parental way of approach. That was pointed out by you when the ninth lord and the eighth.
Yeah.
It could be a case where ninth lord and the eighth, Lagna lord and the 12th, or fifth lord and the sixth. The Dharma
Yeah.
Trikona lord going to Adama Bhavas. Maybe that adharma will follow if if the planets concerned with dharma goes into adharma bhavas. That's what, in a nutshell, one can
Yeah.
say when you are looking into the non-believers of Supreme Soul has to go into the adharma bhavas.
Yeah.
What is adharma bhavas? The weak bhavas. What is Big Bava? Lagna Saptamayor Balereva. Therefore, whichever is strong should be considered as the main theme and then proceeded with, as Jaimini points out. Here also, the Adama Bhava is opposition because opposition is supposed to be lesser strong than the party in
Correct.
power. Like that, the soul is powerful, such a person would always be able to manage the situation in any circumstances, whether this way or
Yeah.
that way.
Correct.
Therefore, when it comes to the seventh bhava, weak bhava, and then Rahu Ketu axis, a dimension which I would like you to look into is what role Rahu and Ketu are going to influence, how these planets going to influence in case एक check आप कर लो, you'll find
Yeah.
it comes to a better conclusion. What you have done, simply excellent, I will say. The methodology that you adopted and the slokas that you have mentioned, specifically the effects of the slokas, which are definitely sacrosanct for the topic that you have chosen. It's a new topic, innovative or original approach to the problem. So thank you very much. Good luck. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very
So,
much.
thank you. Now I request Sarita Bandar to present vote of thanks. She will be co-hosting this session, webinar series from now on.
Namaste all.
So, Madam,
Namaste all. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the ICAS organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Honorable National Vice President Mr. Rangachari sir, Registrar Vishwanath Hola sir, and our resource person, Honorable National Treasurer Pradeep Gowda sir, for enlightening us with your knowledge and insight into this topic, atheist. My sincere thanks to the entire CEO team for hosting this event. And finally, I would like to thank you all to present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us make this event a grand success. Thank you, one and all.
uh,
Thank you.
thank you,
In
Madam. From now on, it will be alternative week.
Olaji, incidentally, it is our president's birthday, and yesterday was your birthday. Therefore, it coincided with Pradeep's work.
Thank you.
Therefore, let Pradeep be blessed by both of you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
For the viewers, we will be hosting this webinar on alternative Saturdays. That is second and fourth Saturday from now on. So please, join us on alternative weekends. That is on second and fourth Saturday. So thank you very much.
Very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Fine. God